Well, good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us on this podcast today. I'm sitting with the Reverend Gordon McCracken, who's recently wrote a book about the Scottish Arms Order for Crown and Constitution. So I'd like to welcome Gordon into our headquarters here in Glasgow. So firstly, Gordon, just tell us a bit about yourself. Who is Gordon McCracken?
Gordon McCracken is now a retired Church of Scotland minister, although still doing a wee bit here and there. He was a minister in Ayrshire, West Lothian, Ayrshire, and then I worked in the interim ministry for about 10 years. So I was everywhere from Dumfries to Peterhead. It was quite a journey over that 10 years. I think my wife reckoned about 11 moves. During that time, I did some training in conflict mediation, and that was an addition. And then, just before I retired, the last 6 years or so, I worked as Presbytery Clerk in Presbytery Hamilton. Of myself, I'm a Glasgow boy, Boys Brigade, Sunday school, Bible class upbringing. I joined the Arms Order at 17. I was in it almost just short of 25 years. When I resigned in 1988. It was very much part of the culture that I grew up in. I had some relatives in it, but none of my immediate family. I was hooked at the age of 17. That was me for that period. So. That's it, succinctly.
Good. Well, this is your second recent work that you produced in aspects of the Scottish Arms history. Boyne Water was very favourably received by membership, but not so much so with the secular press. How would you view this?
I think quite simply they have a negative view of the order, and they don't like anything that challenges that. And I think anyone who's read Boyne Water will realise that the Arms Order has largely been on the receiving end rather than the giving end of sectarianism within Scotland. But that doesn't fit the secular media's narrative, and it doesn't fit with what the political classes have a view either. So I think that's it. Anything that challenges that, they just don't like and will seek to ignore it.
Do you think, and it's probably my belief as well, do you think the secular press don't understand the arms institution?
I think that's true, but I think I would also say that in a wider context. I don't think they understand religion. The line that's put in is religion is okay, providing we accept that all paths lead to the one destination. That's the prevailing postmodern philosophy. And anything that takes a stand to say that Christianity is unique and is the only gateway to God doesn't go down terribly well in this multicultural society. The Arms Order is a subset of that. A lot of evangelicals wouldn't like me to say that because they wouldn't want to associate for other reasons. But that's the truth of the matter. If you have a strong religious message that is particular, then it just doesn't fit with the postmodern narrative. It's prevailing.
What inspired you to write this magnificent book?
This particular one? Well, I think it's partly what I've just said, that there's this negative perception out there. During my time with Place for Hope, I had one situation where somehow I got bypassed on it, but the Place for Hope was a mediation service started up by the Church of Scotland, but wider than that. And they were trying to tackle sectarianism in Scotland. So what did they do? They booked up a nice wee trip to Belfast to try and find out about the Arms Order. And despite my protests, things we're better looking at here to a very different setup. That didn't happen. So it's clearly against a sort of misunderstanding there. Also, the chap who I had spoken to particularly became, I think, the head of Place for Hope after I left. But I broke a meeting between him and Ian Wilson at one point. But he kept going on about the work he'd done in combating the English Defence League. And we've seen just how toxic that group is, even just very, very recently in terms of Southport. But this was his perception of what the Orange Order was. We had to try and bash Catholics and so on. So that was kind of part of it. But I think the other main motivation is the narrative of the political classes, which would be to try and see Orangism in Scotland as just been a wee branch, a subset of what's going on in Ireland. There's always been this thing about Orangism being unwelcome in this country. And so what I'm trying to show is the Scottish Orange Order has its own roots and its own distinctive features. And that's a message for the membership, as well as for the secular media and politicians. Because I think, inevitably, we've always been supportive of Ulster. It's fraternal links, there's no doubt about it. But, we're not some adjunct of the Grand Lord of Ireland. And so I'm trying to bring out a strong tradition of independence and roots in this country, and not merely from Ireland.
Yeah. Even having some recent press interviews, some of them were out kind of shocked that we had been going since 1798, and that some lodges were actually celebrating 150 years of existence. So it's an educational piece.
Absolutely. I mean, even good historians, and I say good because they're usually well researched, but a guy like Tom Gallagher saying there was no Orange Lodge in Glasgow before 1860. I mean, it just came out with some absolute nonsense. And so over the years, I've got more and more frustrated by some of the things I've read, some of the things I've heard. And I thought I need to make my contribution here and try to get the record straight.
Great. Now, recently we've held some productive talks with senior Kirk officials, which have been very positive over its history. Scottish Orangism has been very supportive of the Church of Scotland up until the 90s, but since then it's not been harmonious. What future do you see both groups having individually, and how do you see them both working together in the future?
I think it's a very challenging climate for both. The Church of Scotland is losing membership hand over fist, and at the moment the reform of presbyteries and all that's going on, I sometimes wonder what that's about. It's sold on the basis that they were going to devolve from the centre out to the regions, and I've no signs of that. They've just put presbyteries together. None of this is really tackling the decline in the church. It's a management exercise that's been going through at the moment to reduce the number of churches because there's a reduced number of ministers. But the only way you're going to get ministers is to build a Christian base, and then you will get people coming forward into ministry out of that strong base. But there seems to be this fear almost in this secular climate of overtly trying to evangelise, trying to win people for Jesus Christ. It seems to me that's the essential business that the church ought to be in, and I'm not sure it's recognised. Pay lip service to it. I'm not sure it's properly recognised. One job that I think suffers from some of the same problems with the secularisation of society. It's going to be much more difficult to build. But I do believe firmly that if you're true to the gospel, true to the values that you extract from the gospel, that the Holy Spirit will indeed bless those who are faithful to Him, and the growth will come. I remember many years ago, nearly 40 years since I was in training, I remember an old minister then saying to me that the Church of Scotland would only start to go again when it was humbled by the Holy Spirit. And looking back on what he said then, now I realise the truth of what he said. We need to get back to basics, back to gospel values, stick by what we believe, and try and build from there. Compromise doesn't work in any shape or form now. That doesn't mean that you don't treat other people with respect. Of course you do. I was brought up to respect. My mother had many Catholics, but as friends, but I was never in any doubt about my Protestant upbringing. So it's not about that, but it's about sticking firmly to what you believe. And as we believe, the Holy Spirit will bless us if we're faithful.
In contrast to the Church of Scotland, the Orange institution is growing in numbers. albeit there are things that we do need to modernise within certainly the Orange institution, and I'm sure the same in the Church of Scotland. What would your advice be to the leadership of both groups in terms of moving in the right direction?
Well, first of all, the Church of Scotland, I think it continues to shoot itself in the foot by not recognising that there is still a Protestant class, largely working class, that it has lost touch with. Okay, there are pockets here and there in schemes and so on, but the majority of working class Protestants have really given up in the church. And it's not for them to make their way back, it's for the church to reach out and attract them with the gospel. They're not alien. I mean, okay, the last census returns were hopeless, but the previous census return 10 years ago still showed about 48% of men saying they were, they'd affinity to the Church of Scotland. But did anybody try and capitalise on that and try and find out why these folk were not wanting to attend? No, it buries its head in the sand time and time again. Orange Order, I suppose, similarly, I would say you need to obviously reshape the organisation for a modern era. But it has to be one that doesn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's back to basics. And the basics of that are the gospel of the saving power of Jesus Christ. And from that, everything flows. We believe in justification by faith, and that does, in some senses, put us at odds with the Roman Catholic Church. But, there's much still to be built on, and certainly what needs to be built on is greater understanding and tolerance. I mean, I hear this slogan, one Scotland, many cultures. There seems to be at least one toxic culture, as far as politicians are concerned, and that's the orange culture, and that's sad.
Is there a message you hope your readers will take away from the book?
Yes, I do. I think it's to recognise the authentic place of the Orange Order in Scottish life and history. And I've tried to reinforce that. Yes, of course, the Orange Order in Scotland embraced people who come in from Ireland, north and south, at various stages. Not least of all, I think after the Home Rule crisis of 1886, I think there was some evidence of quite a number of people coming over at that time. But it never dwarfed the Scottishness of the Orange Order. But it was a fraternal organisation, and it was open to embrace that. But since the Troubles in particular, I think obviously there has been a bit of an Ulsterisation of Scottish Orangism, and I think that in some ways is to its detriment. That's not to knock the Northern Irish in any way, but it's a distinctive contribution that Scottish Orangism has made, and still I think has to make in the future.
Thanks, Gordon. Gordon, I'd like to thank you for taking time to come and speak to our membership today. We wish you God's blessing in your life, and offer our fraternal greetings from the most worthy Grand Master and the Executive and the wider Royal Orange Institution of Scotland.
Thank you.
And for any members that wish to purchase this book, you can get it on Amazon. It's a great read, and we'd encourage any member of the institution to purchase it. Thanks very much.